So the second component is motor disturbances. Okay, so in this we are going to observe the motor activity, the psychomotor activity of the individual. Okay, so what are we going to observe? We are going to observe if the patient is overactive or hyperactive, or on the opposite end we are going to observe if the patient is underactive or is having motor retardation. So patients who are suffering from depression usually tend to have low energy, and because of that low energy, that physical movement is retarded. Okay, the severe the depression, the lesser the energy, the lesser the physical movement. Okay, so we are going to see whether the patient is moving or not. So if the patient is moving less or having very few movements, that is known as motor retardation. On the other hand, if the patient is suffering from mania, okay, so mania has got increased energy, so the patient will be very restless and will not be able to sit at one place. Okay, will always have a urge to stand up, and during the interview also the patient will be actually standing up, and we have to tell them to sit down. Also there are conditions in children there is one condition which is known as ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So these children actually also are very irritable, and they are having a lot of energy. They are not able to sit at one place. So we have to observe if the patient is overactive, or which is also called as hyperactive, or if the patient is having reduced psychomotor activity, that is known as motor retardation. We may also see a case where the patient is actually completely conscious but motionless. Okay, so it is equivalent to unconsciousness, but in unconsciousness the patient is not responding. Patient responds only to painful stimuli, but here the patient is fully conscious but is motionless. This condition is called as stupor. So a stupor patient will actually come on wheelchairs in the ward, or they may come on stretchers. They will have minimalistic movement, and one of the procedures known as ECT is very helpful in actually improving these kind of conditions. So if the patient is having very less movement, almost nil, that is called as stupor, but the patient will be conscious in those cases. Then there are compulsive movements. Okay, so there may be movement of the shoulder, constant shrugging of the shoulder, or some type of mannerism like scratching of the ears, or scratching of the eyes, rubbing of the eyes. Okay, or lip smacking. All these things are actually known as stereotype movement or compulsive movement. Okay, then there may be compulsive movements such as going and washing the hands because of a preoccupation and because of the thought that is running in the mind. So repetitive movement. So we have to observe of any kind of repetitive movement that is there in the patient. Okay, so patient might be always trying to look every 5 seconds towards the left hand side of the body. So this is also a type of compulsive or repetitive movement. So these are repetitions. Then there is one more type of repetition which is actually called as echopraxia. Okay, so what is echopraxia? Echopraxia is repetition or imitation. Okay, so one, we have seen compulsive movement where the patient is actually repeating certain movements. Echopraxia is actually imitation of what the examiner does. Okay, what the interviewer is doing, that is echopraxia. Like when many times during play when we were young, we used to copy our brothers or sister, or sometimes our parents or friends. So that is known as echopraxia in actually in mental health, in psychiatry. Okay, so when the patient is actually repeating the movements of the interviewer, that is called as echopraxia. Okay, so this is about motor disturbances. So what do we see, or what do we assess in motor disturbance? We see the overall psychomotor activity of the individual. We are seeing whether the person is agitated, whether the person is able to sit at one place or is not at all moving, right, or is having absolutely zero movements, that is called as stupor, or the patient is exhibiting some types of stereotype movement or compulsive movements where any one part of the body will be moving continuously. And we also see a condition known as echopraxia, where there is imitation or copying of the actions of the interviewer. So suppose if I am the interviewer, and I'll tell you how it is being done. So suppose if I am the patient and the interviewer asks me, how are you? So I will also do, how are you, right? So I am repeating words, that is echolalia, and also repeating the action, that is the movement of the hand, that is called as echopraxia. So this is component number 2 that actually assesses these motor disturbances. Now again, do we need to ask any type of question to observe this, to actually analyze this? No, it is all based on observation. So objective, the first component is also observation, second component is also observation. Third component, we can also observe in this, we can also observe the gait and posture movement and all those things, right? Now let's move to the third component, that is speech. Okay, speech is what? It is talking. So first thing that we assess in speech is intensity. What is the intensity of the speech, right? So patients who usually have a lot of energy will have good intensity. For example, mania patients will actually speak very fast and with good intensity, right? Patients with depression, if you ask how are you, they will just say I'm okay. Okay, if you ask a mania patient how are you, I'm okay. You see the difference? The intensity is more when there is more energy, intensity is less when there is less energy. And the second part is we observe is pitch. What is the pitch of the sound, right? So high pitch sound, low pitch sound. How is the voice pitch? So people who have a very shrill voice will have a high pitch sound. People who have a baritone voice, or we call it as a male voice, will have a low pitch sound. So we have to observe that pitch. In some individuals, this pitch will be actually tweaked automatically biologically. Males might have voices of females, and sometimes you will observe people who will be who will have a good masculine body, but as soon as they open their mouth, you come to understand, oh, this sound is not matching to his personality. Okay, so we have to observe about the pitch. How is the pitch? Then another thing that is very important is known as speed. Okay, so if I ask a patient how are you, so the patient might respond, I am good, I am fine, okay. The same question if I ask to another patient, he might respond, I am good, I am fine, okay. So you observe the speed, right? So this speed is actually determinant of underlying causes. For example, again I'm taking two examples because that are very relatable. One is depression, another one is mania. Mania is having more energy, so there you will find that the speed is more, and in depression there is less energy, so you will find that the speed of the speech is less. The words are fairly paced. When I talk about speech, there is one more term that is known as pressure of speech. Now there is a lot of confusion while teaching also, what is pressure of speech. So certain people tell that pressure of speech is actually when you give pressure at certain words while speaking, like it has to be done. So they say that this is pressure of speech, but actually this is not. Pressure of speech is actually a manifestation of a thought that is known as flight of ideas. So what is flight of ideas? Flight of idea is when you are having racy thoughts, thoughts that are running in the mind very quickly, and they are not related to each other. There is no particular theme, and these are random thoughts that are running at a very fast pace. So when these thoughts are passing through the mind, and when they come to the mouth, when they come out of the mouth, it actually comes in a very fast paced vocabulary or speed, or fast paced words. So this is actually known as pressure of speech. So what is pressure of speech? It's actually the manifestation of flight of ideas. Okay, then spontaneity. So what is spontaneity? Spontaneity is how does the patient respond, how quickly the patient responds, or how much time the patient actually takes to react to that thing. So spontaneity, and there is another term related to this which is known as reaction time. So suppose if I ask a patient, what is your name? My name is Jayant. So did you observe there is a gap, there is a considerable amount of gap between the question and the answer. Another example, what is your name? My name is Jayant. The gap is very less. So this is spontaneous. So when we talk to any individual, so the responses, when they come almost immediately, we say that the responses are very spontaneous. The individual was very spontaneous in talking. The reaction time was very less, and in the first example we saw that the reaction time was very big. There was a large gap between the question and the answer. So this is actually known as here we can say that the answers were not spontaneous. So when during the entire course of the interview, when this is happening, we say that the speech is not spontaneous, or the reaction time is very large. Okay, so again, taking example of depression and mania. In mania, because there is a lot of energy, so the reaction time will be very less. You will hardly finish the question, the patient will actually come up with an answer. But in depression, the reaction time is way too big. You will finish the question, the patient will be thinking, you might be thinking he has not heard, but actually after some time the patient will react. Okay, so this is called as spontaneity and reaction time. Then what is the manner? Normal, relaxed, appropriate, the speech manner. Then there is negativism. Okay, so negativism and mutism, there are two things. So mutism is when the patient may not talk at all, may be prevented to speak by feelings of marked anxiety or hostility, right? So the patient remains mute. Negativism, the patient will not at all cooperate. Okay, in negativism, patient will not cooperate at all, and the patient might not speak. And then the last is vocabulary. What is the vocabulary that the patient is using? How much vocabulary is what use of words? Okay, so I'll give you an example. You can assess what is how do we assess vocabulary. So suppose if I am being asked, what is your name, right? So suppose if someone asks me, what is your name? Jayant. Again, scenario 2, what is your name? My name is Jayant Abhishek Gideon. Okay, scenario 3, what is your name? My name is Jayant Abhishek Gideon, my friends call me Jiggy. Okay, so you see this, there is one question, but there are three types of responses, and in all three of the scenarios, the vocabulary kept on increasing. So this actually tells about the thought process. So when the thought has a lot of content, it actually comes out as vocabulary only. So there is a lot of vocabulary in that, and when there is lack of or scarcity of thoughts, there will be scarcity of vocabulary also. So in depression, we see that there is sometimes scarcity of thoughts and hence less use of words, whereas in mania there will be a lot of use of words. Okay, so this is speech. Again, do we need to ask any particular question to observe speech? No, it is just plain talking, and in plain talking we observe the speech patterns, we observe the intensity, the spontaneity, the reaction time, the pitch, and the vocabulary and all those things, reaction time, pressure of speech, everything is being just observed when we are talking to the patient. So this actually covers component number 2 and component number 3, that is motor disturbance and speech.